Hey guys, today we're going to have a look at the Falcon. So the Falcon, it's kind of like an ultra lightweight, well this is the Falcon lightweight, or ultralight. It's a pure EDC folding knife. Now what does pure EDC mean? Well, it means that I wouldn't recommend moving this upward to like harder tasks at all. It's just for your everyday stuff. Letters, food, boxes, that's about it. I would not guarantee its longevity or success, even cutting things like heavy rope, carpet, that sort of business. Truly is supposed to be a very subtle, unnoticeable companion knife, and at that, it really does excel. So let's get into the specs. 3.5 inch long blade, 3.15 inch long blade. The cutting edge is 3 inches, and that's a little 1.5 there, including the thumb stud to the beginning of the handle there. It's a full flat ground AUS 8 steel blade, 57 to 59 on the Rockwell for that AUS 8. It's a 4 inch long handle, it's made of micarta, and there are no liners inside, so just 2 bits of micarta with the steel backspacer there, and the pin construction holding it all together. It weighs 1.25 ounces, which is about 38 grams. That's pretty light, as you can probably recognise just from those numbers. It's got a pocket clip for left or right tip-up carry. You can swap the pocket clip to that side, and keeping with the theme of ambidexterity, dual thumb studs. Now there are different thumb studs on different models of this. These are the sort of knobbly ones. They do also do those flat checkered ones as well. I think I prefer these ones, but I haven't used the other ones, so I can't really tell you. Just have a look at the photo when you buy it to see what sort of studs you are getting. And it's got lock back as a secure, like a mid lock back, or even earlier than mid, really, as your lock up security to stop the blade from closing on your hands. Let's see some size comparisons first up, so we know exactly what we're looking at. This is the Falcon versus a Spyderco Delica, very similar in proportions as you can see. This is the knife next to a Paramilitary 2, which is definitely that next size up in terms of size and also in terms of usability. Much more of a rugged use knife. Even getting interesting here is the thickness comparisons as well. The Almar is much thinner than a lot of your sort of more hard duty knives. It's probably about 2/3 the thickness of the Paramilitary 2. This is next to sort of your average tactical folder, which is this in 0909 by Zero Tolerance. Again, it shows you how sort of short the blade is this way as well, when compared to say something, this isn't a huge knife, it's a larger knife, but not a huge knife. It's just got your 3.5 inch long cutting edge, and more or less, not a hugely longer blade, just a much more material making it up. And again, just to show you, getting towards being about half the thickness of that ZT0909 there, it really is. There we are. And of course, this is it next to a knife that most people carry every day. Joking. A Cold Steel XL Voyager clip point. As you can see, the entire knife is about the same length as the Cold Steel handle, and the blade is substantially shorter than the 5.5 inches that you get with your Voyager, and the thickness is almost comical at this point, almost 1/3. It's about, the whole knife's about as thin as perhaps just the actual blade stock, or at least definitely one of the Gravery liners there, so getting towards being a vastly different class of knife, obviously. Just for interest, thought I would show you that. Alright, let's talk the wins, and there's a lot of win in this knife. So first of all, supremely light and highly capable within that intended use. So for an EDC knife, it's got a long blade, and it's got a very thin blade, which you can do a lot of EDC tasks with, everyday stuff with. And I'd be thinking more anything that's going to be, perhaps you're going to be vigorously using your arm for, that's when you need to scale up to the next size knife. But all those little wrist flick type tasks, little twists, manipulators, this is a great little knife. It's really tactile, the fine tip makes a really good little pointer, and just really vanishes in your hand and in your pocket. Very, very masterfully done, just in terms of being a very light, capable, dexterous knife. Very happy with that. It's very sharp. Now this really thin 2mm thick blade excels at detailed, like picking, fine cuts, food prep, office work, like, I don't know, putting a ruler on a piece of paper and, you know, guillotining it away. Just that sort of stuff does really well for that, just because it's so thin. And of course you've seen my slicing montage. Let's show you something I haven't shown you. Let's show me slicing up. I've got some blueberries. I'll slice up a blueberry and just show you how it looks. Blueberries get really floppy towards the end of it, so we'll see how that goes. I'm just rerunning that now. Just really slicey blade. Very good. I like a lot of slice on my knife. It's got a true sense of ambidexterity. You can swap this pocket clip easy. It's got a lock back, which is accessible with either hand. It's got 2 thumb studs, which is really good for lefties, which I think we often forget. 10% of us are lefties, and silly on the knife companies don't make stuff that accommodates their needs. It's got an excellent pocket clip. It's not deep carry, I know, but it's just really well designed. You see, it's got this channel in the eyelet here. You can see those there. That means that you just need the one screw, because the back of the clip has a little notch in it itself. So it works really well for just being nice and thin again, without getting that sort of tri-screw. So let's get the Delica here, and you get that sort of business going on. It's so much tidier, isn't it? Really well done pocket clip. And it's got also really well done from this dimension as well. A bit like the Delica clip, which is also a good pocket grabber. It's, as you can see there, very similar. They just get the shape just right. Whereas you see what bloody Cold Steel are managing to get out of their gates these days. It's got really sort of shallowness, and this is on a big knife with rough scale material here. They just get that tiny little bit of lipping there, which is, you know what, pretty much even to the Almars. No, it's even less than the Almar on that smooth micarta. So a much better designed pocket clip than you get from a lot of other companies. I'll just close this monster up. Really good. Really attractive satin finish on the AOS 8 blade. I think satin is a great choice for a steel like this. Keep up with the rust resistance better than, say, stone washed, but then mirror polishes, they mark up and tarnish when you actually use the knife. And this is a knife for actually using. The action, really good. Probably some of the best lock back pocket knife action I've had before. Really does fly open. There isn't really that, like you get on the Delica here, for example. There isn't that sort of hinginess to it where you have to like unhinge it. I know Delicas do flip open eventually, but so that didn't make it then. But you know, most lockbacks when they are going heavier duty, they do need those sort of walk and talk points to them. Whereas this one, because it's a small light duty knife, they can just make it flippable and really easy to manipulate one-handed. You don't need to push it against your pants leg, which one of my viewers quite rightly pointed out that is a way of closing a lockback knife one hand. But you don't even need to do that one. You can continue it all the way through without doing anything else with it. Very cool stuff. Overall, it's just the design to me is the main win for it. I just think it's an exceptional design in terms of a working tool, but also in terms of how it looks. It's definitely like a non-threatening knife that would look at home on like your kitchen bench, on like a desk next to your pens, or like your cigars if you're that kind of guy, with, you know, in your fancy little sitting room, your den, that sort of stuff. Or, you know, pulled out of the shirt pocket at work just to like lever a staple out of a piece of paper or something. I just think it's really pleasing to me. Like, it's a pleasing design. It's familiar enough because it looks like our kitchen knives, but it's also got some cool little features just to make it a little bit more, you know, high-end looking and feeling. So very cool design. The design is the big win for me. Let's get on to just the neutrals. These are the things that I feel like I should talk about, but aren't particularly great or bad, they're just what they are. So first thing, it's limited in its role. So some pure EDC knives, like for example this Delica here, slide that on there, that's a knife that you can elevate a bit more. The Delica is a little bit more heavily built. It's got things like liners, and it's got a thicker lock back, and it's got a more, you know, more chunky locking system, probably a bit more of a hardier grip. that's a knife that you can elevate through the purposes of use to do a bit, you know, harder stuff with. This knife, for reasons regarding construction and steel and everything, really can't move any other way. So that's just something I feel like I need to point out. Don't buy this feeling like it's going to be your be-all, end-all knife. If you do have illusions of perhaps using your folding knife to take camping with you and do some woodworking, it's not this knife. It might be this one. AOS 8 steel is barely adequate steel. I'll get into price later, spoilers, it might even be in the next section, but it's just not good enough, no matter how you grind it, at edge holding. And this is a good AOS 8, everyone goes on that Almar's heat treatment's a bit better than, but whatever, it's still not going to hold as long as VG10, for example. It's, you know, still, you remember my cut tests, it's going to do those 50 cuts of rope and then be pretty dull, unlike, you know, your S30V, which got to 175. I would love this knife in a better steel. Thumb studs are a little sharp as well, just my little note made, but it's only a neutral because they're only sharp when you sit incessantly flicking the knife. If you just use this truly as your pocket knife, get it out when you need it, they're not going to bother you that much. If these thumb studs cut up your thumbs in the first 3 or 4 opens, then yeah, it would be a fail, but not quite there yet. Just thought I'd point them out. Let's get on to dem fails. Alright, pinned construction. They look great, don't they? Flush with the micarta handles, really, really nice looking, but when you pin construct a knife, you can't clean it out, you can't tighten it up, you can't really modify it in any way. And when you start pinning expensive knives closed, those are the kind of knives that people might want to have a look at if they're not performing well. By pinning it shut, you've removed that opportunity and therefore drastically reduced the life of the knife. If something was to go wrong with it, just a little thing could become a big problem. For example, on this particular example, and it is because it's a lightly built knife, there's a little bit of wiggle. Just a little bit. Tiny bit of up and down. Let's see if we can get that wiggle for you. A little bit of wiggle. It's nothing crazy, it's not going to affect the performance of the knife, but I would love to be able to just tighten this up. And I know it'd lose some of that real, you know, sorry about that bang, I know it'd lose some of that real, you know, chic smoothness, but I think it's a valid point, and I think a hex stud version of this would be a little bit more practical. That's just something that I can't quite reconcile. Another thing, this is another knife with the exposed tang. It's not as bad as some others, but it's still there, and it still has the capacity to hook things out of your pocket and throw them on the ground when you reach for your knife. Because it's not a super tall knife, it's less likely to happen, but I'm still not a fan of when that is the case. Do it on the paramilitary too. They can do it on the Almar. And lastly, obviously the elephant in the room is the price. This price is simply not warranted or justified. Spyderco, they sell Japanese-made knives, like this one right here, with VG10 steel, which is a better steel. Yeah, FRN's probably a couple of cents per ton cheaper than micarta, but we're not talking, you know, carbon fiber here either. Micarta is a very easily, broadly produced material. The price of the Delica, the retail price, is about, you know, geez. So in Australia you pay 110 bucks for a Delica. On an eBay, if you're lucky enough to find a dealer here, you'll be at least $220 for this. In America, the retail is $170 US, $170 US dollars. The Delica, I mean, geez, what are we retailing for now? Like, I mean, retail is probably 90, street price is probably 70. It's way too much extra money, even if it was the most, you know, brilliantly made, lovely designed knife going. The new price for these is just unreasonable. There isn't AOS 8 and micarta, there isn't anything in that equation, even when you do put it together very well, and they've put it together quite well, but still, it does rock. That really makes up for that price. Prestige brand, I'm not sure. Is Almar a prestige brand? I don't think they're Chris Reeve. I think Almar, I think they're good, but they're not, you know, they're not zero tolerance. They're not like a, you know, a high-end company. They're just a good knife company, like Spyderco sort of thing. I know they're smaller, so their overheads are probably a bit bigger that way, but I just can't, no matter how I look at it, I can't quite bring that justification up as a user. And I'd love to see, you know, how much they actually cost to make versus how much they sell them for, and see that margin there. If they ranked the steel up even to VG10, or ideally to S30V or something similar to that, I'd probably have much less of a problem with the price, because I love the micarta handle and I love the grind and the things they do with the AOS 8, but it doesn't make that edge last any longer, so I'm just not quite seeing the value there. So that's the main fail, and I'm sure you all probably saw it coming, but it is what it is. Overall, now despite those pretty large failures, really, like pin construction on a really expensive knife is not a win, but I really like it still. I like it because that design brings me back. I'd still not be feeling the value from it if I'd paid the full value, but I bought this second hand from Nick Shabazz for about half the retail price, which I think was definitely fair. Luckily this example was really well kept, so I'm happy with it, and I'm happy as a user, and this truly is a sort of knife where it's so light in the pocket and thin, it does just vanish. You could carry this knife like a watch, like the thing you have, like a proper everyday car. I know we all say, oh, this is my EDC knife for today. Like, isn't that a bit of a, don't we all stop and think, wait, isn't that a bit of a juxtaposition? Everyday carry knife that changes every day. Like, it's, you can have your daily, whatever. This could be a true everyday carry product, like your wallet or your watch, because you could put it in the back of your pocket, and then you know what, if there's another knife you're liking at the moment, you'd carry that one too. You know what, having this and this barely makes this. Like this, you're almost talking about for these two the same weight as this. Like it's such a nothing weight that you really could pair it up with stuff. It's cool, it's kind of exciting. Keep this as your foodie knife with its pretty high stainless steel, and maybe carry like an M4 blade around or something as well for your user. Like carry something that's not gonna, that you don't mind carrying now because you're not going to be putting it into yucky things. Keep your AOS 8 Falcon for that. Really cool sort of idea behind it, and that's kind of how I think I'm going to carry this one. It's definitely staying my personal collection because I really do like it, but yeah, I'm glad that I got it the way that I got it, because it would still sting a little bit no matter how much it has grown on me. Thanks so much for watching, dudes, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.